Let's take a closer look at routing rules. This is where all the magic happens. So a listener listens on a specified port and IP address for traffic that uses a specified protocol. If the listener criteria are met, the application gateway will apply the routing rule. And these come in two flavors. We got basic, which forwards all requests for any domain to backend pools, and multi-site forward requests to different backend pools based on host header and host name. So the thing is that you can have multiple listeners and you can have an order of them. And the idea is that you really want the basic to be on the be in last in priority, because if it's a first, it's going to capture everything because that's its job. It's like a catch-all. So just make sure that if you're using multiple listeners, you put basic last. So that's just something you need to know. Then for those backend targets, this is where we either define a backend pool or redirection. Redirection is just an HTTP redirection like 403 or whatever you have there, temporary or permanent. Very simple. But for backend pools, you have to create HTTP settings, and this tells us a little bit more about how we want to handle HTTP. Cookies, connection draining, port requests, etc. Let's talk about that a little bit more. So here are the actual options that we can configure for HTTP settings. So you have your backend port. So generally, it's either port 80 or 443. It just depends on where you're doing your SSL termination. But generally, if you need end-to-end encryption, it'll be 443 and then if you are doing if you're doing SSL termination at the load balancer, then it's 80. Then you have cookie-based affinity. This allows you to keep a user session on the same server. So if you need to persist cookies and use them for authentication, you'll want to enable that. You got connection draining. This gracefully removes backend pool members during planned service updates. So the idea is that, when there is an update, it's not just going to abruptly cut over. It's going to wait until a connection disconnects from a server before no longer sending more requests there, because you don't want a connection dropping in the middle of an update. It's not great for a user. Then you have request timeouts. This is the number of seconds the application gateway will wait to receive a response from the backend pool before it returns a connection timeout error message. And last are, we still have override backend path. These allow you to override the path in the URL, so the request for a specific path can be routed to another path. The idea is, imagine you want to send it to bananas, and you want bananas to actually internally route to oranges. I don't know why you want to do that. Or maybe to plantains. That'd make a lot more sense. So that's something you can do. And the last one is the override the host name. So application gateway normally leaves the host name alone. But if you're using multi-tenant services like apps, like app service or API management, it needs very specific host header set. So this is where you can override them and change them for those services. So hopefully that really gives you a good picture of application gateway, but I feel that that's all you really need to know.